I love quotes, especially quotes that really get to the heart of what I'm talking about. And so today's quote says, a lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect. A lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect. And think about that for a minute. If you don't have boundaries, then you create a space for someone to disrespect you because they don't know what your boundaries are. And if someone doesn't know what your boundaries are or what you will and will not allow, then that's sometimes it invites disrespect. And so, just thinking about the word boundaries, a lot of times when we think about boundaries, we think about it as it's something for yourself. I hear a lot of people say these days, they say, I'm going to protect my peace. And by saying that, what they're saying is, I have boundaries of what I will and won't allow. But think about boundaries as also for the other person, because not only are you letting people know what you won't allow, but you're letting them know how far that they can go. And so the boundaries are not just for you, but it's for the other person also. One of the things that I really like to do is I like playing checkers. Whenever I get an opportunity to play checkers, I like playing checkers because for me, checkers is not that hard. There's only 24 pieces, 12 on one side, 12 on the other side. And even though there's different variations of how you play checkers, it's pretty quite simple. On the other hand, chess is a little more difficult. It has 32 pieces and 16 on each side. So just by the numbers from 12 to 16, it already confuses me because it's like, wait a minute, we got more pieces on this board now. And then not only that, now the pieces have names. They have the pawn and the bishop and the queen and the king and the rook and the knight. And based on the piece, it's assigned a certain value. And based on the value, that's where it sits on the board. All of that is just enough to confuse me. So obviously, I don't know how to play chess because it's too confusing for me. And it's much more complicated. And chess is much more confusing than checkers. And I like to use that illustration because that's how it is in the blended family. The traditional family, to me, is more like checkers. Yeah, they got some variations, some things that you do, but it's pretty straightforward. But the blended family is a lot like chess. They got all these moving pieces, and people have different positions that they play. And it's the more people that are involved. And so that's why I say in a blended family, it's difficult because it involves more people. It's difficult because it involves more people. It's not just you and your spouse or you and your partner, your children. And I've said this before, depending on how many people are involved, it could be you, your partner, you and your ex partner, your partner's ex partner, your bio kids, your step kids, the grandparents of the bio, and then the aunts and uncles, and then the grandparents of the step and the aunts and uncles. And it can go on and on. And so it gets more and more involved. And so you're trying to navigate all of these different pieces. And that's why I say that you really have to have some boundaries. Because just like in the chessboard, there are lines to show people where they go. In the blended family, the boundaries are those invisible lines. And sometimes you know where they are, and sometimes you don't know where they are. And it gets a little difficult when you're trying to figure it out. But once you learn the boundaries, it helps create that blended family where you're more connected once you understand the boundaries. And again, like I say, the boundaries are not just for you, but the boundaries are for others also. So they know how far to go and what they can and can't do. And so just thinking about that in the blended family, there's just so much that we could talk about, but we don't have that much time. And so we can't talk about everything. But I do want to talk about a few things that I've noticed over the years in my blended family with my clients. And also, for those of you that don't know, I'm also a special ed teacher and with children that I worked with. And so that's why I say that there are some specifics that absolutely have to happen. And one of the first specifics that has to happen is you have to have a parenting plan. Whether you were married or not, you still need a parenting plan. And this is the reason why you need one. A parenting plan helps set boundaries. Parenting plan helps set boundary. Well, you know that a parenting plan, it includes the vacations and the visitations and how you're going to spend the holidays. But the reason why it helps set boundaries, Because before you get together with someone, you need to have this in place. Because then afterwards, it won't create a problem with your partner, your significant other. And some of you might say, well, how is that going to create a problem? Well, let's just say you meet someone and you're just haphazardly just seeing your kids whenever you want to, or there's nothing in place. Now you meet with someone, and now all of a sudden, that person wants to limit the time that you have with your children. Or your children feel like the time is limited because now you have to spend time with that person. But if there's already something in place, it just continues. The boundaries are there. There's nothing to argue about. That's one of the things that I am so grateful that my husband had in place before he and I got together. He had a parenting plan because there was nothing for me to complain about because it already outlined when the visitations were, when they were going to have the holidays, how they were going to set vacations. And I know later on we'll talk about being flexible, but I'm talking about in the beginning, remember the first 1 to 5 years, that plan is already in place. But what usually happens, I shouldn't say usually, but what happens a lot is that the person will wait until they get together with someone and then they want to create some type of parenting plan. And that's when conflict starts. Conflict may start with your significant other because they want to know, well, why do we have to spend that time? And why can't we just go on a vacation? And why do we have to include that other person? And so it starts getting like conflict. And that's why you need to have that parenting plan in place so you won't have the conflict. Then you won't have the kids saying, well, why can't I come over? And why are we changing this? Because you've already had those boundaries in place. So that's a reason why the parenting plan has to be something that's in place. And I know a lot of people they may think, well, if I'm not married to the person, I don't have to go to the courts and get a parenting plan. No, you don't have to go to the courts and get it, but you can write a parenting plan out without going to the courts. You and that person can get a parenting plan together, your ex-partner. So you don't have to be married to have a parenting plan, but you need to have something in place because that acts as your boundaries. The next thing with the parenting plan is it lets you know that you and your partner are co-parenting the kids. You and your partner are co-parenting. So I would suggest to put everything in there, get as detailed as you can. Put it in the parenting plan. Because when you get together with your partner, a lot of times the partners think that they're co-parenting, but you're not co-parenting. You're married or you're dating or you're in a relationship with that partner, but as far as co-parenting, it's still your partner and their ex-partner. And a lot of times people get that confused. They think because I get in this relationship, now I'm a co-parent. Well, if that person allows you to make suggestions or have an input, but truly you're not co-parenting, it's that person and their ex-partner. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. You can have input if they allow you. But if they say they don't want your input, you can't give your input because you're not the one co-parenting. They're co-parenting. You're with their partner. Okay? The second thing when we're looking at boundaries is you have to remember not to ignore the bio parent's requests. Not to ignore the bio parent's requests. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this because I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been a step parent and I'm a step parent and I'm a bio parent. But when my daughter's father, when he was dating someone, she decided to take her to the salon. Now my daughter at that time was 8 years old, and I had insisted, I had informed, I had told, however way you can say it, this person that I didn't want her to have acrylic nails. You know, the acrylic nails and 8 years old with your little nail bed and how that file, that electronic file, I didn't want her to have to experience that because I didn't want it to mess up her nail bed. Some salons, people have had bad experiences because they're not clean. But regardless of my reason, I told her not to do it. So she asked my daughter, do you want to get these acrylic nails? And of course, my 8-year-old's like, yes, that's wonderful. It looks great. I want to get these acrylic nails because her dad's girlfriend's daughter got hers done. So of course she wanted hers done too. And so after they were done, there was nothing I could do about it. But I said, let me emphasize once again my stance on her not getting her nails done. And so when I was talking to her, I remember the emotion I felt. I'm explaining to her what I don't want for my child, and she's dismissing what I'm saying. I'm explaining to her, and she's trying to tell me how I'm wrong. And all I can think about is, but this is my child. I gave birth to her. I take care of her. I do everything for her. How dare you come in and act like you know what's best for my child? And so whenever I talk to my clients, and I'm for step parents, some because it is challenging, but I always remind them that you didn't stop. You're not. They're not an ex-parent. They're just an ex-partner or an ex-spouse. They're not an ex-parent. They always remain the parent. And you have to remember that yes, the child may be in your house, but it will always be their child. And I'm not talking about people that are maybe on substance abuse and they're not allowed to see their kids, or that they don't see their kids, they're not in their life. I'm not talking about those type of bio parents. I'm talking about bio parents that's active in their child's life. If they tell you as the step parent they don't want something done, respect that. Because think about, you're a parent. If someone came in your house and start telling you what to do with your child, and start telling you what you're doing with your child is wrong, and start instructing you about how you should do it differently, how would you feel? How would you feel? That's the same way that bio parent feels. Well, I'm not talking about something that's abusing their child. I'm not, because I know some people go to the extreme. I'm talking about a person that they're parenting their child, and just because they parent them differently doesn't mean that the way you parent your child is better. So you have to remember that. Instead, what you do is you support your partner. Let your partner and that bio parent, let them have the discussion. And if they say they don't want something, it's not up to you to insist that they have it. That's one way to keep boundaries in the relationship, is that to realize that they're not an ex-parent, they're just an ex-partner or an ex-spouse. Another way to ensure that boundaries are kept is making sure you follow the schedules and routine. And this goes back to the parenting plan. If it's in place about the vacations or what needs to be done, that's the boundary. And I know sometimes as kids get older, sometimes schedules and routines have to change. Like, for instance, let's say your child is now, he's in junior high and he's starting football, and he has to be at practice every day of the week. Well, on Wednesday and Thursday, that's your time to get your child. Well, the schedule has to be flexible, because remember, it's about the child. So understanding that to keep those boundaries, I have to make sure I'm following the parenting plan or what's in the best interest of the child. Remember, it's two households. So you have to figure out what's best for both households. And that's why that parenting plan was in place. But again, as kids get older, some things change and you have to be flexible. But it has to be something that the co-parent, the two co-parents decide. You can get input, you can have input off to the side, but you can't insert yourself, because that's going to cause conflict. That's a hard thing for a lot of step parents to come to grips with, because, and I've heard this, well, they're in my house. Yes, they're in your house, but they have another parent. And if they allow you to have the input, then you can. But if they don't, you cannot insert yourself. You can't make them listen to what you want to say. It's the job of your partner to talk with them. And that goes into a segue of getting involved in discussions with your partner and the ex. And I know it's tempting, especially because I've been there, when it's like you want to tell him to say this and say that, but you have to take that step back and allow them to parent their child. Again, your input is needed with your partner, but not with that ex. If they say, I don't want to listen to you, you have to respect that. I see that as one of the biggest conflicts with the step parents, is when they want to insert themselves into the conversation because the child comes to their house. The child is not just coming to your house, the child is coming to your partner's house also. And so you have to respect that they are co-parenting. I talked to someone recently and they were telling me that, well, no, I have a voice in this. And of course, they continue to have conflicts with the ex-partner because they insist they have a voice. No one's saying you don't have a voice. But what I'm saying is that when it comes to that child, they are co-parenting. They had that child, not you. The courts recognize them as the parents, not you. What they can do is invite you in. If you say, "Hey, I have can I make a suggestion?" and they're like, "Sure." Sometimes some ex-partners, they want the help of the step parent, but some of them don't, especially in the beginning, because remember, they may still be grieving the relationship. They may still be bitter, angry. And so you have to take that step back and allow them to deal with that child. And while I'm on that, I just want to say that this is something else I've heard a lot of people say is, "Oh yeah, in the beginning, this is what happened in the relationship." Something 10 years ago, and you just got in a relationship a year ago. You don't know what happened. All you know is what that partner told you. And of course, you're going to believe your partner in respect, but there's two sides to a story. So you can't automatically say what type of person the ex partner was because you don't know. You weren't there. All you can talk about is what the person is doing here and now in front of you. You don't know what happened in that house. You don't know what caused that person to be upset and angry. So when people go around and spread rumors or say, "I know what type of person there is," you're causing problems. And so again, with the boundaries is to not discuss what happened in the past because you weren't there. You don't know what happened in the past. And another thing is when you're getting involved with arguments between your partner and their child. Remember, take a step back because unless you have that bond, they're going to think you're ganging up on them and they're going to feel like you're inserting yourself when you shouldn't be there. And so again, those are areas that I see that causes a lot of conflict is because the boundaries aren't set. If you have that bond with your child, there's a saying that says connection before correction. Connection before correction. If you have that connection, that bond, then you're allowed to correct. If that connection is not there, then you can't correct because they're not going to listen to you. And it's going to cause more problems in the relationship. So I know it sounds like it's like bashing the step parents, but really, those boundaries are to help you. Because if you're not involved in all of those conflict, then you're not getting upset. In the beginning, because it's a new journey, and I said in the day one of the workshop, a lot of people unconsciously try to have their step family function as a traditional family. And in a traditional family, you don't have boundaries. If you want to say something, you say it. And you don't have to worry about all of these people being involved and having something to say. But in a step family, you have to be careful of what you say and how you say it. Even have to be careful of how you speak to your stepchildren, your bonus children, because you may say one thing to your children one way. They know you. They know when you raise your voice, "Oh, that's just mom, that's just dad. They don't mean anything." But your stepchildren, they don't know that. When you raise your voice, they may think you're upset with them. They may think you're angry with them. And so that bond hasn't taken place. You haven't connected with them. And so now everyone's upset. Now your partner's upset because your child came to them and said, "You yelled at them." And now you're saying, "No, I didn't yell at them. I talked to them the same way I talk to my kids." But remember, you have to get that bond. And they're not your children to the point that you understand them. Like I said, the boundaries, there are invisible lines. And sometimes it's hard to figure out what to say, what not to say. And I say all the time, the best way to handle this is go to your partner. If it's anything you're dealing with the ex, go to your partner. Tell him how you feel. Let him deal with it. Let her deal with it. When it comes to the kids, let them deal with it. And I know there's different types of blended families. Like I said before, in my blended family, when the kids were little, my bonus kids came over every other weekend. And I know for some of you, your kids may live in the house. So it becomes a little bit more challenging when they're in the house and there's more opportunities that you want to say something. But again, refrain from saying something and allow that parent, the bio parent, to address the situation. That's one of the things in early on with the kids in our blended family is that we just did it automatically is that I would allow my husband to address the his kids with situations, and he would allow me to address the kids with situations because we had that bond. Now, it was a couple of times we had a couple of incidents where we would say something to the kids and we realized they weren't receiving it. And so that's why we had to allow the bonus parent, allow the bio parent to talk with the kids. So I just want to just sit here and for a minute, and I've talked to people before about this, that I do have a coaching program. And one of the things with my coaching program is it came out of a lot of experience and learning. And sometimes as step parents, we're there for everyone else, but there's nobody there for us. There's nobody there for us. We give and give and give, and there's nobody there for us. Trying to blend your family as a step parent is hard. And so sometimes you need to allow someone else that's been through the trenches, that has learned what it takes to blend what it takes to blend a family successfully. You need that help. You need that mentor. You need that coach. I've done it, and I'm offering my services to you so you can learn how to not be as frustrated. So if you need help building those skills, building those communication skills, if you just need help in just navigating the step family journey, I'm here for you. Like I said before, you're there for everybody else, and sometimes you don't give yourself what you need. Some of you have been praying for some help in your situation. I just need somebody to help me. I just need this to go away, or I just need someone to show me. Well, your prayers have been answered. This is why I do these workshops, so you can see that there's someone that went through that journey that can help you. I have the blueprint. I have the roadmap that'll help you in your blended family. So I have 3 coaching packages. The first coaching package I have is called Before the Blend. And in this coaching package, it is like your premarital coaching or pre-relationship coaching. And in it, I help you understand the dynamics of getting into a blended family. We look at the expectations, the mindset. We look at understanding your partner in communication. This coaching package it's a 6-week coaching package that helps you understand how to blend the family. The next coaching package I have is a 12-week coaching package. And these are for individuals that's already in the blended family, but you're still 1 to 5 years and you're still struggling maybe in that partnering piece, in that parenting piece. You're still struggling how to continue to remain close to your partner. You're still struggling how to communicate with your partner. So this is a 12-week coaching program to help those that are already in the coaching, that are already in the blended family, but you're still 1 to 5 years in it. And then the last coaching package that I have, it's called short-term coaching, and it's a 3 to 6 session module, and it's for people that don't need the month to month, because you don't need the before the blend, you don't need the 12-week, but there's are specific issues in your blended family. So this coaching program, it helps you become more laser focused in identifying what is stopping you from being heard, what is blocking your communication, what is hindering your communication, what is stopping this blended family life that you've envisioned, what's hindering that. And so in this coaching package, what I do is I help you become laser focused and to really focus on what are the issues. And it's a 3 to 6 session model. So I encourage you again in your blended family to stop and to think about, is my blended family where I want it to be? Am I continuing to go around and around with the same issues? Am I continuing to feel like I haven't been heard? Do I continue to feel like the third wheel? Do I continue to feel isolated? Am I bitter? Am I resentful in my blended family? And you know if you are or if you aren't. And the last quote I want to leave with you, and I love this quote. It says, "We change our behavior when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing." I'm going to read that again. We change our behavior when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. We know change takes, sometimes people take a long time to change, and it's hard to change. But when the pain of staying the same, when things continue to go as they've always been going, when things continue to operate the same, when that becomes more painful, when that becomes more uncomfortable than change, that's when you'll change. So go ahead. If you have any questions, anything you want me to comment on, put it in the chat. And but again, this is only a snippet of my coaching program. I go much more into a deep dive in the coaching program. So if you're enjoying this and you still need help, just go ahead and send me a DM and we'll go ahead and talk about it. So it's still beautiful outside. So I want you to enjoy the rest of your day and have a good one.